Are you ready?
Report greatest ever. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero, but we have yet another special guest this week here on the greatest ever. It's our big return. We've taken 2 weeks off, and Scotty Too Hotty joined us last Saturday on Prime Time. I saw you on our broadcast on Monday on some farce called the David Hero Show.
It was horrible. It was a career low.
It was, yeah. Hey. Who booked that for you?
I don't know, but they need to be fired. But the good thing is it's all uphill from there. So.
Really?
Welcome back.
Thank
so
you.
Good to see you.
You too.
Serious?
You've changed.
Well, we are talking about the greatest ever, and in this summer series here on the Pro Wrestling Report, we take a look at the greatest ever in several categories. And in this category, well, the debate has raged on for a very long time as to who the greatest tag team ever is. And of course, Scotty, you one half of Too Cool, one of the candidates on this list. But tag team wrestling has certainly fallen from the times when they headlined many a wrestling show back in the territory days. But even after that, tag team wrestling had a long-standing place near or at the top of the card. While those days have been gone for a while, recently tag team wrestling has seen a resurgence with the likes of the Usos, Stardust and Goldust, Rybaxo, the American Wolves, and even Rowan and Harper, just to name a few. It's good to see tag teams back in the pro wrestling spotlight. There is a long list of tag teams that qualify for the greatest ever, and listen closely, guys, because I got a feeling this one won't be easy to come up with the finalists. The Rockers, Strikeforce, the Midnight Express, the Wild Samoans, the APA, the Hardys, Too Cool, the New Age Outlaws, Edge and Christian, the British Bulldogs, Bo and Blake, the Beverly Brothers, Power and Glory, the Dudleys, and more.
Did you really say the Beverly Brothers?
And why did you laugh?
Well, they're there for that reason to laugh.
Wow.
What's wrong with the Beverly Brothers?
I just don't see it.
But even with this very impressive list, it really does boil down to the several that are at the top of the heap. And this truly may have been the most difficult list yet to determine the finalists. And that's why we have you here, Scotty. You got to keep us on track here.
Okay, I can do that.
So it seems as if...
You didn't put Sheik and Volkov on there.
It seems as if the finalists
Bundy and
include the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, Axe and Smash Demolition, the Fabulous Freebirds, the Rock and Roll Express.
You don't have the Hardys on the final list?
I don't know if I have the Hardys on the final list because this one was tough. Very, very tough. Very, very tough.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, everyone's going to say it's the Road Warriors just because they were so dominant and they drew money everywhere they went.
Well, let's back up a little bit. And Scotty, you spent a lot of your career as part of one of the biggest tag teams in WWE, Too Cool. Tell us a little bit about tag team wrestling and what makes for a great tag team.
Well, when he was with Too Cool, that's when tag team wrestling was fantastic.
And it seems like tag team wrestling has its ups and downs. You can look at the 80s with, the tag team division in WWF was awesome, and that's when I was a fan, and I was a kid and watching, and when you had the Heart Foundation and the Rockers and Demolition, and then the Legion of Doom came in with their little puppet.
Rocco.
And
Precious Paul Ellering.
And the Bolsheviks.
The Islanders.
The Conquistadors.
And then if you go back before that, right around the first WrestleMania with, Sheik and Volkov, and then it died off after the 80s, and then until, I guess, the Attitude Era when it started to come back with, like you said, with the APA and Too Cool and the Hardys and the Dudleys and Head Cheese, and, it's I was going to say Too Cool kind of lended the comedy to that era, but I would have to say Head Cheese dominated Too Cool over the comedy part. So.
Clearly.
But Al did what he could.
It's really tricky, though. I mean, I can't. It's very difficult for me, even with all the ones I listed, all the ones you just mentioned, all the ones Dave's mentioned, to come up with who the greatest ever were. The argument has always boiled down to, I think, the Rock and Roll Express, the Legion of Doom, and Demolition. If you ask any common fan out there, I think those are the three that it really boils down to.
You can't forget the British Bulldogs.
And I think, you can say
I can't, but I'm talking about if we go to a man on the street and say, who's the greatest wrestling tag team ever, I think those are the three they'll cycle through their
But
head.
if you go to a man on the street, it depends on when his era was.
Yeah.
True, very true.
So for
yes.
me, like I said, it was the 80s, and I'll say either Hart Foundation or Rockers.
So do you want to be Bret Hart or Jim Neidhart?
Absolutely Bret Hart. Absolutely, yeah. And then
And do you want to be Marty or Shawn?
Sean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I was a Shawn Michaels wannabe for the last 25 years.
He wanted to be Grandmaster Sexy, just so you know.
I know.
But, yeah. I'm at a loss. You know why it is? Because it's one thing when you pick a singles, because a single star can go on for 10 or 12 years for a longer run. The shelf life of most tag teams isn't that long, with the exception of the Rock and Roll Express and the Road Warriors.
We can say those two teams, but if you ask my 9-year-old son, who is a diehard fan, and he can tell you everybody's finishing move, everybody's at ring music, everybody's everything right now, doesn't even know who the Road Warriors or the Midnight Express are. And no disrespect to those guys, because I was a huge fan of both teams, but that's the way it is, you know. So
well,
best team ever.
Then you almost have to go by who won the Crockett Cup.
What?
What?
And that's what they would say now.
That was like 30-some tag teams in one tournament.
Yeah.
And if you say Crockett Cup, I grew up in Maine where WWF was red hot, and I had heard of Ric Flair, but we didn't get WTBS until later on when I was a little bit older. So I didn't even know who Ric Flair was until I was older. So it depends where you grew up at the time. Also, now it's a different animal. It's WWE only everywhere. So.
I think the only way amongst the three of us here at this table that we can determine who we're going to announce as the greatest tag team ever is to let our guest, Scotty Too Hotty, share his thoughts as to who the greatest tag team
That's a lot
ever
of pressure,
is.
just so you know.
And we'll go with that.
I mean, personally, for me, it's nobody on that list. It's the Rockers. You know,
Really, the Rockers, the greatest tag team ever.
Yes.
The tag team specialists, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty.
For me.
And you know what? They have a lot of history here in Milwaukee, too. Marty and Shawn.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to tell us about that?
Well, that's a different story. We can talk about that one.
The Rockers.
The Rockers. I never would have guessed the Rockers.
The Rockers.
That's for me.
You know what?
But
He's said that 3 times now. He's not getting it. Yes, the Rockers.
I'm still barely speaking to you, so you might want to tread lightly for that little stunt you pulled on Monday at PWRshow.com. The David Hero Show. You arrogant prick. Really? You do your own named show? What is this about you?
Well, the show was. Of course. That's why it's called the David Hero Show.
Scotty, the Rockers.
the Rockers.
You're going to get a ton of internet heat, just so you know.
I don't think so.
We'll see. Trust me. It's a different animal.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has just been deemed here that the Rockers are the greatest tag team ever. Scotty, thank you so much for joining us.
Forever, ever.
Here on this broadcast. Folks, we'll see you again on Friday for a brand new edition of #Feedback Friday. And Dave, no, you won't be on that show. You're still suspended.
Seriously?
Your suspension's been extended because of that stunt on Monday. We'll see you then, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for joining us, Scotty, here on Greatest Ever.